Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derrick Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright and Rogers Base to give our thoughts on the reveal of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Andre and Ash already said their piece, but we thought it was our turn. So, Roger, what was your reaction to this announcement?
Well, if you watched my live reaction, you would know that I absolutely freaked out over how good I think it looks. We had our discussion prior to the official reveal back when it was leaked for the first time. And we had a bunch of different ideas about how, we were pretty open to the idea of the catching mechanic being more like Pokemon Go, but only if they kept battles intact. And it looks like, I know obviously you don't battle wild Pokemon anymore, that's all just done through catching, but it looks like the battle system itself is still intact. It's the classic Pokemon battle system. You battle trainers and gym leaders in the Elite Four, and so with that still in place, and then the addition of following Pokemon and writing on the back of some of your Pokemon, them also clarifying that there is going to be online play as well. Everything else about this I think is great, and I think it looks exactly the way I wanted it to look. It's a very clean design. I'm a little bummed that it's just the original 151 and some Alola forms, but otherwise, I'm really happy with this. I'm really excited to play this in November.
What about you, John?
Yeah, to me this was like a Mario plus Rabbids situation, where going up to the announcement, the rumors kind of put me off. But then when I actually saw it, it just looks like a ton of fun. The Go capturing mechanics kind of caught me off guard at first, but yeah, I think they seem to actually just slot into the game extremely well. And I think this is going to be a great bridge title for those who maybe came back with Go, but didn't go into Sun and Moon. I think this sort of game would be great for those people who just want to have a core adventure, but it's kind of simplified, but still with the core mechanics intact.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Pretty much like you, John, where it was. I looked at this and was like, okay, there's a lot of potential here, as I said with Roger, but it's still one of those things like you see it on paper and like, I don't know if this can work or not. But this presentation, this trailer, really did sell me on this idea. And yeah, it's a much simpler idea. It's not nearly as complex. We're going back to Kanto again. Kanto hasn't been changed in any real way outside of the cycling road, as I pointed out in my analysis. Most stuff is pretty much as you remember it, with just some minor upgrades here and there, and of course looking way better than before. I'm with Roger. I do like this style they're going for. I've seen some complain it's a little too plasticky, and I kind of get that, but it still just kind of works for me, and I'm totally down for it. As far as the capturing mechanic, it's a little weird, but I'm okay with it. I think as long as they balance it out with the battles and have plenty of trainers for you to fight, it can definitely work. As somebody pointed out online, and I forget who this was, so unfortunately I can't credit it, but somebody compared it to the Coliseum games, where there was no wild battles in that game either. They had a completely different way of capturing Pokemon. So it's kind of like that, except you do catch wild Pokemon. It's a weird mishmash of ideas, but honestly, the idea that I probably won't use much myself, but I've seen a lot of people just super excited for, especially couples, is the two-player mechanic.
Oh yeah,
so many people I saw like, oh man, I could play this with my significant other, have a good time, just relax with Pokemon. This is what I've always wanted. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like, seeing that excitement for that feature, like, didn't even click for me when I watched the trailer. It was only afterwards when I finally realized how big that really was.
I do wonder how game-breaking that will be, because we saw on Nugget Bridge there was, I think it was Bulbasaur and Pikachu just sort of nailing this, was it Venonat?
Yeah, Venonat.
Yeah, poor little Venonat.
Yeah. So I wonder if they're going to balance that out in any way. It doesn't really seem like it. It seems like you can just sort of do double battles on any trainer you want and just demolish them. It does look fun, though. I can't wait to see what potential is in store for the two-player mode.
And one thing also that was brought up in that Q&A later on, while we were talking about, like, making the game easier or harder or whatever, is that you are actually going to earn experience from catching Pokemon in this game, much like you did in X and Y and Sun and Moon and also in Pokemon Go. So I think that will actually be an additional way to level up your Pokemon. Because I saw some people saying, well, if you can't battle wild Pokemon, how are your Pokemon going to gain experience? Just through trainer battles? battles? Are they going to add more trainer battles? Like, what's going on there? Are you going to get more experience from trainer battles? And so them clarifying that you actually get experience from catching Pokemon too, I think is another way they're going to sort of even all of that out. And also, I think you guys pointed this out in your analysis, combat power from Pokemon Go is carried over here in addition to levels. So I'm curious how that's going to work.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just sort of there to denote, like, okay, here's the potential of the Pokemon. I've seen a lot of people made that suggestion. Or if it's just sort of there for Go players to sort of get an idea of exactly what they're working with.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a rough idea. It's like, hey, if your Pokemon is between this CP and this CP, they're going to be this level when you transfer them over. That kind of idea. So it's hard to say exactly, but it is another nod to Go to, I think, help people make that transition. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, this is a very different Pokemon game from what we're used to. I do not mind with them going the more casual route, because this is obviously pointed in that direction to bridge that gap between Go and a normal Pokemon game. And I think that's fine. I think that's a good way to start this, especially when you're trying to capture that market and get them to play games that aren't on your phone.
Yeah, and having just done a yellow playthrough, I'm actually really excited that Pokemon now will actually appear on the field. Because going through like Mount Moon or any other cave and just bumping into a Zubat is so tedious.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you can just sort of avoid that now, or go after whatever you want to go after.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, though, because I've seen a lot of people freaking out over this announcement, saying, oh, this isn't the Pokemon that I wanted, or whatever, or I wanted a real core game. But first off, it was never a guarantee that a core Pokemon was going to come out this year. And I know some people are having that, is this a core Pokemon game argument? I think if it's a remake of a core game, then yes, it's a core game. Even if they change certain mechanics, I'm still counting this as a core game. But they also clarified that the next generation of Pokemon, the core game, is going to be coming out next year. So I don't understand why people are upset by this at all, if they're still going to get the core game that they want. And at the same time, I also think this game is adding features that I do not want to see removed in core games. I loved having the Pokewalker in Heart Gold Soul Silver, where you could take your Pokemon with you outside and gain experience and get bonus items. I loved your Pokemon following you around, which they're adding in Let's Go as well. And I actually really do like the overworld thing. I wish that was like an option in all the core games moving forward, where you could actually see the Pokemon on the field. So there's a lot of things that I'm hoping they don't remove from the next mainline generation Pokemon game that comes out next year, and I'm kind of worried that they are actually going to remove it, and that's going to just be for this like Let's Go side series, because I've wanted following Pokemon again for such a long time, and I don't want that relegated to just this remake game. I want that to be in the next generation as well.
I absolutely agree. When you're going around the game in any other Pokemon game, there's this very weird split between the battles and the overworld, where there aren't really any Pokemon at all on the overworld, apart from a couple sort of sprinkled in towns. But you go in a forest and it's just grass everywhere and trees. You don't see any Pokemon or anything resembling Pokemon. So, like, having see them just sort of traveling around the environment or riding them is going to add so much to the vibe and makes this feel like an actual Pokemon world. So
right.
Yeah, I don't want to see that leave in Generation 8 at all. Like, I want this feature to stay.
One of the things about it, though, is looking at the footage for the analysis, there's still a sense of rarity to these Pokemon, I think, because you only have so many Pokemon on the screen at any one time, and they'll disappear and they'll actually, and some more will pop out of the ground or however they come in and show up. So there's still a sense of rarity to those, to all of these areas. So I'm sure, like, you'll be flooded by Pidgeys, flooded by Zubats, and you're just sort of avoiding them, keeping an eye out for when that Clefairy shows up or when that Paris shows up. And it'll be a lot easier to keep track of what you might need to get and what you might need to do. I'm still a little unsure about putting that all into the mainline title. I have to play this one first before I really decide whether I like the idea of doing the same sort of thing for Gen 8 is going to settle in. And that's probably more from a selfish reason because I'm thinking, I like to stream Nuzlocke, and I'm like, how are we going to make this work with the first Pokemon you come across? Like, not so sure about that one, but there's still a lot of potential there, and I think ways that can be gotten around it. That said, I mean, just the fact that you can avoid Zubats, and in the fact that the Pokemon aren't actively chasing you, they're just sort of minding their own business.
Right.
So here's a question, actually. In Pokemon Go, do the Pokemon appear as shinies on the map, or do they only appear as shinies when you click on them?
I actually don't know that answer.
I've never found a shiny before in Pokemon Go, so I have no idea.
Me neither.
I think whenever you click on them, because I've never come across myself, but I have a feeling like if you saw a shiny in the overworld, you're gunning for that thing, which is a little harder to do in Go now since there's no real tracking features.
Right. So I guess that might be an incentive for the more hardcore players to just check out every Pokemon just to make sure if they're shiny or not.
That is true.
That's true, yeah.
So, what do you guys think about just the idea that it is a remake of Yellow? Because that's an interesting choice to go to Yellow of all games in order to have your remake, and they even said that one of the reasons they chose Eevee as the other Pokemon is that in Yellow your rival chose Eevee, which is a strange thing to think about because if you choose Eevee and there's a rival in this game, that means they get Pikachu, which is just weird.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if Eevee will evolve or not.
They've already confirmed no.
Okay, see, I think Eevee's adorable, so I'm going to go for Let's Go Eevee regardless, but it takes so much away from Eevee when you can't evolve it, because that's basically the whole point of Eevee. It's a blank slate that you can put into any form that you want.
Right.
So, yeah, that kind of blows. Yeah. But about the original 151, I like them all mostly, but there's some weird balancing when it comes to types. I think there's maybe like 10 or 12 fire types in the entire roster, whereas there are maybe 30 water types. So that's there's a weird balance going on there, and that's something that I don't really want to go back to, especially when we have such a varied selection of Pokemon from Sun and Moon. So that kind of sucks too. But people love these Pokemon. They're the most familiar. People grew up with them, so I'm sure this is going to bring in a whole new crowd.
Yeah.
But it kind of sucks for fans to go back just to the original first generation.
I think this makes a lot of sense from a sales standpoint, though. If you think about like the people who were brought in with Pokemon Go, who maybe didn't play since Gen 1 or Gen 2, who are now seeing all of these characters in HD and probably have been away from Nintendo systems for a while too. I think like when talking about this, people usually only consider the Pokemon audience, but you gotta remember there's a ton of people who have even moved away from Nintendo since growing up, who got back into it with the Wii, then dropped it during the Wii U era, maybe played the 3DS a little bit, but now are having a Switch and seeing that there's going to be a Pokemon game on their home console that's based around the one that they grew up with, so seeing all these familiar areas in HD, and then also the addition of the Alolan forms of Pokemon as well, bringing in the Alolan forms that they added into Pokemon Go. They already mentioned during that presentation that now they have the Alolan Executor event that's going on in Pokemon Go, and if you catch one of those Executor, you can transfer them into your Pokemon Let's Go. So I can tell you right now, I want my Grass Dragon Alolan Executor when I'm playing through the game, because there aren't very many Dragon types in the original generation, so that'll be really cool to have that. There's also not very many Ice types in the original Gen 1, and so it'll be cool to have Alolan Vulpix and Alolan Ninetales in there as well, to round out sort of the other Pokemon that are going to be in there. I'm wondering if Lorelei is actually going to have an Alolan Ninetales instead of a Slowbro now, because she was always like the water-ice person, but there were never enough ice types to fill out her roster, and maybe now she'll have an Alolan Ninetales as one of her Pokemon that she uses during the Elite Four battle. I'm not really sure, but I'm excited to just, like I said, play with the Gen 1 Pokemon again, play with the Alolan types. Hopefully they bring back the Surfing Pikachu minigame. Maybe there'll also be like a companion Surfing Eevee minigame that happens. I'm just like, I don't know. We talked about this on that discussion, Derek, and I'm really pumped to just see certain areas in HD for the first time. The Power Plant, Seafoam Islands, the Cinnabar Mansion, even Vermilion City, seeing that little glimpse of Vermilion City right as you're walking off the SS Anne dock towards where Diglett Cave is that you could see in the trailer. Mewtwo, like seeing the Cerulean Cave and all those Pokemon on the battlefield. I cannot wait for this. I feel way more excited for this than I felt about a Pokemon game, I think, since Sun and Moon. I wasn't really super into the past couple remakes. I obviously loved Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but I was not a fan of Oris, and I really didn't like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And this is giving me that feeling of excitement that I feel like I needed with Pokemon. I think it's bringing it back to basics.
Mewtwo is going to be really funny, because it looks all epic and everything, and then it's going to transition into a battle, and you're just going to throw balls at him.
Right.
That is true.
It's going to be so anticlimactic.
Well, I was talking about in the analysis, it's like, okay, are we going to get a Master Ball like we did in Yellow? Or, because it'll still be anticlimactic, like, Mewtwo, toss. I mean, that's all you did in the original game as well, but there's also the added possible heartbreak of it being a bad toss and missing completely.
Oh, no.
Imagine whiffing with a Master Ball. That would suck.
That'd be hysterical. I would love that.
Oh man. So it could still be rather interesting, and of course hunting down all the legendary birds and whatnot. Maybe they'll do something with Mew. I think one of the things I'm kind of disappointed in is that I felt like this was a good opportunity for them to do the reverse Kanto, where you start out in Kanto and then go to Johto, and they've already confirmed that that's not going to be the case. That's probably one of my biggest concerns here, is that as far as we can see right now, there doesn't seem to be a lot of extra content beyond the main game. And as you recently played Yellow, John, that was one of the first things you said, is there's no post-game content outside of catching Mewtwo.
That's it. Yeah, you can go after the birds, which you can do in the main game anyway, and then it's just a Cerulean Cave, and that's pretty much it. So outside of catching them all, there's not really a whole lot to do in Kanto. Fire Red and Leaf Green had those bonus islands that you can go to as well, so maybe something like that may make its way into this.
I was just going to say, I think they're probably going to bring the Sevi Islands back. I know this is supposed to be a remake of Yellow, but I don't think in 2018 they're going to do a game with zero post-game content at all. So I could see them doing the Sevi Islands. And also, we talked about this on our other discussion, Derek. I am a little bummed that we're not going to go to Johto, but I still feel like that final post-game battle, a double battle between Red and Blue, where you and your friend, especially now that we have jump in, jump out co-op, where you and your friend could go up and battle Red and Blue, maybe either at the top of Mount Silver, even if they don't have Johto, that's still technically part of Kanto, or they could maybe have that battle in the Sevi Islands or something like that in the post-game. So I still think there's an opportunity there to have new content after you beat the Elite Four, but I just don't necessarily think it's going to be another region.
There was a rumor going around saying that Red and Blue would be in this game, and a lot of that stuff seems to be accurate with what we have here, so I don't really doubt it. But yeah, that'd be super cool to have a double battle with Red and Blue.
Yeah, great idea for it. One of the other things they've mentioned in the Q&A is that there will be one completely new Pokemon introduced in Let's Go, and I would have guessed it'd be a new Eevee evolution. If your Eevee actually evolved, I would have thought that would be the perfect opportunity to have a normal evolution Eevee. I feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity there, but I'm not quite sure what they'll go for, whether we're going to have another legendary Pokemon or just some other Pokemon that's thrown into the mix. I'm not quite sure, but so it is cool that we're getting a new one.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe it's going to be a new Pikachu evolution, because there was that random news that came out a little while ago about Gorochu, and how that was like, it just seemed weird to me that the developers brought that up now. You know, that's been in the background for all these years, and they just randomly brought up Gorochu again. So either maybe one, we're going to see a new like alternate evolution for Pikachu, like a Gorochu, or the other thing I'm thinking is, if you remember with Colosseum, oh no, it wasn't Colosseum, it was XD. In XD, prior to the next generation coming out, which was Gen 4 at the time, Bonsly was actually catchable and playable in XD. So that was a new Pokemon that was released prior to that generation that was playable in that game that you could have on your team. So maybe they'll end up throwing in a Pokemon from the new generation that might also be in Smash or something. They'll find some other way to market it or put it in the movie or something, and have that Pokemon as the Pokemon that you can have in Kanto in the Let's Go remake.
That would be a really smart way to do it. To be curious to see which one they chose or anything like that. I mean, personally, I mean, I'm sure you both have heard about the Space World demo coming out and people finding all these beta Pokemon from Gold and Silver. I'd love to have the kitten Meowth in the game.
Oh yeah, the baby Meowth. Oh my god.
I don't care about baby Pokemon at all, but that thing's adorable and needs to be in the game.
Yeah, I don't think you can do a Pikachu evolution or an Eevee evolution, because that way it's exclusive to one of these versions of the game. Let's go Pikachu or let's go Eevee. So I think it makes more sense to do another Pokemon. And I really want that Meowth now, that baby Meowth. So adorable.
The other thing I'm thinking, which would make sense for both games and is something that was a pipe dream of kids growing up in the 90s, is if this is tied to Kanto, and they clarified that there's 151 Pokemon that are going to be in this, implying Mewtwo and Mew will both be catchable in Let's Go.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because people thought this at first when the Mega Evolution for Mewtwo showed up for the first time. Maybe we're going to get Mew 3.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say, what if Mew's under the truck?
I totally believe that. I think there's going to be something post-game where Mew's under the truck. I totally believe that. But that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say if this is a new Pokemon altogether, maybe it's like Mew 3.
It would have to be an alternate evolution for Mewtwo, because for Mega Evolutions, it's always from the final form, and since Mewtwo has... is technically its final form, it can't really evolve from that, so...
No, that's why I'm saying it would be a totally new Pokemon. Because they already said it's a totally new Pokemon. I wouldn't say that Mew 3 is like an evolution of Mewtwo. I think it would be a new clone of Mewtwo. Yeah.
New clone of Mew, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. That would be something, and I would not be shocked if they were trying to, they know how popular Mewtwo is, so...
Exactly.
I mean, we had Mewtwo X and Mewtwo Y, the Mega Evolutions, so...
Exactly.
We've kind of had that kind of step before, but yeah, it'd be great to see an entirely new form of Mewtwo.
I don't know, what pitfalls do you guys see happening with this game? Because, for the most part, we've been pretty positive about this, but is there something that would be in the game that would just cause you to lose interest?
So I think for me, as I'm not huge into the competitive scene, so I'm not that bothered by most of these changes. But I think if they're making a lot of changes to how the EV system works, that's going to bother a lot of the more hardcore players. So I am a little worried about that. Not really for myself, but just for the more competitive Pokemon scene. Yeah,
I could see that being an issue. I think I might have heard something about them sticking with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon until Gen 8 comes out. Which makes sense to me.
It would be fun, though, for the 20th anniversary of Pokemon for the next VGC to be, let's go with just the original 151. I think that'd be a really neat season. Because Gen 1 was so weird. Like, certain characters were super overpowered, just because of the way the mechanics of the game worked at the time. So, Persian and Tauros were all really, really good. Jolteon was great in Gen 1. So it'd be interesting to see that play out with the new modern mechanics. But in terms of a big concern, I know this is a really minor thing and probably not something other people are thinking about. I really hope the music remixes of Gen 1 are really good. I hope that we get a great soundtrack for this game. Because I love the music we heard in the trailer.
I don't like the Fire Red soundtrack.
I agree. I hate it, yeah. So I want a really nicely done remix of all the tracks from Gen 1 for this.
Yeah, I really hope that's the case because, Gen 1 has some classic tunes and... yeah, let's hear it. Let's really go all out with this. So hopefully that sounds good. My biggest concern actually is difficulty. It does seem to be skewing a lot easier because we saw that one fight you're in. It has that it's that same trainer from Fire Red and Leaf Green, and he does not have any of the same Pokemon or setup that he had before, where he only has a single level 9 Venonat now, rather than 4 level 10s or 2 level 14s. And that might mean that we're looking at a much easier game, which makes sense for the casual market, but it's also really hard for me. If it's just going through no issues, I might get a little bored with it. And that's been kind of an issue with some of the recent Pokemon games where a lot of the trainers only have one Pokemon. So it's not a lot going on. So hopefully that's not a common factor. It's something I was hoping they would improve and try to get more Pokemon out there per trainer. But we'll have to see. I think especially the fact that your Pokemon are level 18 when that poor thing is only 9.
Mm-hmm. And you're double teaming him too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's it'd be fun for couples, but it's after a while being that overpowered does get a little boring.
Yeah. I think there are areas to trim the fat, like when it comes to trainers with 6 Magikarp or fight Weedles or something. But yeah, there's a balance to be found with being needlessly easy and tedious. So hopefully they find a nice middle ground going on there. But yeah, I see why you're worried, and I'm worried too.
Yeah, that is a concern of mine, but I think I'm more excited to just see these areas in HD again for the first time and revisit it, as opposed to just like worrying about it being easy, because the past however many games have been so easy with, you know, the EXP share on, and then even like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, you had that fight with Ultra Necrozma, and everybody was like, oh, it's this amazing boss battle. Literally took one sucker punch from my Decidueye, took it out, and it was like, okay, that's pretty anticlimactic, you know. So for me, difficulty isn't a huge deal. I'm just gonna be fun to like go back and revisit the story again after all these years, and getting to see like the SSA in HD is gonna be incredible. You know, being on the boat and being off to sea with all the different sailors and checking the trash cans in the Vermilion City gym, and I don't know. I'm excited to revisit it again.
Rubbing the seasick captain's back, trying to hunt down the missing teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Safari Zone. Also, I'm very curious to see Jesse and James in this version.
They're going to look really weird in 3D.
Yeah, they are.
I can't even imagine it.
I like the style, but I'm trying to think of what it'd be like to actually see them in this game. Like, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I like the look of the trainers, though. I actually do.
Yeah.
I've seen some people complaining about it. I really do like the look of this game a lot. I think it's exactly how Pokemon should look in HD.
Yeah. I love the other trainers that you fight. Like, we've seen bug catchers, we've seen beauties,
Definitely.
picnickers, bikers. They all look really, really good. Fishermen. These are classic ones. I'm a little sad that because of the lack of Route 17, we won't get cue balls anymore, which is always a fun trainer type, but oh well.
Yeah, one of my biggest issues with Pokemon Sun and Moon was how your trainer was so expressionless. Like, something really emotional will be happening, and you have this biggest grin on his face. So I'm really happy that they seem to be emoting properly in the trailer. So hopefully all the trainers emote that way, because it was very static in Sun and Moon.
Yeah, definitely pulled you out. Now, fortunately, the plot isn't as in-depth in Kanto as it is in the Lola, so that probably has an effect on it. But it is still good to see them like that. The look of joy on that trainer's face when she picks up the Eevee is amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Something we kind of skipped over, by the way, in terms of the difficulty talk that I do want to bring back up, because we were also bringing up things from Fire Red, Leaf Green that they might actually incorporate into this. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I think the Versus Seeker is coming back.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the way that they adjust the difficulty of this game for people. Because if you're just playing through the game for the first time and you just want to get through all the trainer battles and it's really easy, I could see them maybe toning down the difficulty of some of the later game trainers, but adding that extra level of difficulty where if you battle them again with the Versus Seeker, they're actually much more of a challenge.
It's funny, we got a lot of ideas for what to look forward to, but then you start thinking about, man, what's Brock gonna look like? What's Misty gonna look like? What's this gonna look like?
Sabrina! What's Sabrina's gym gonna look like where you're teleporting through all this stuff? That's gonna look so cool! I cannot wait!
And spinning around on the little panels.
Exactly.
Oh, it's gonna be so great.
Seeing this lift company where you go up the elevator and the fountain in the lobby and getting to go through all the different levels and the guy hiding there with his Lapras to give to you and the game corner, getting to see the game corner. Oh man, it's just going to be such a treat to see this stuff in HD.
Oh man, seeing the nondescript ghost Pokemon forms before you get the...
Dude, yeah, what's that going to be? That's going to be so great! Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
So, one thing I'm thinking is, do you reckon there's any chance of this taking place in the world of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? Because we know there's a Alolan Pokemon in this game. Well, at least Alolan forms. So, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there was a Team Rocket scenario in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And it kind of brought back some elements from the original games in there. And I'm thinking, what if that takes place in this universe? Seeming as we don't know if it's directly a remake of Yellow, or is inspired by Yellow. So what if Giovanni, for instance, has all his motivations from that game and carries over and is aware of the previous events from previous games?
I hate to burst your bubble, but in the Q&A they already announced that although there are some Alolan forms in the Pokemon and Let's Go, there are otherwise no connections between it and Sun and Moon. So I was hoping for that as well. Nothing.
Oh, see, I was kind of hoping for a connection with maybe Lily or Gladion.
Yeah.
But them saying that they're not going to carry over the Rainbow Rocket stuff is actually totally fine with me, because all the dimension twisting, time travel mumbo jumbo is like stuff that I don't need in Pokemon. That's like, get that out of there. That's like taking up too much space.
I agree with you. I think it'd still be cool just to see like Lily pop up, just like a little cameo, maybe even as a trainer, just
that would
like,
be cool.
Lounging around somewhere.
It would be. It would be really cool, but unfortunately, that's not the case. They also announced, and before I almost forgot about this, no HMs in the game, which is interesting because
great.
We see the trees that need to be cut. We see surfing being done, so I'm not quite sure how it's getting handled.
Probably through Poké Ride or you're following Pokemon, right? Maybe it's if in the past those characters could learn a certain HM. Now, if you just have that Pokemon with you, you could use it on the field. You don't have to worry about switching it out anymore, or, changing up the moves of your Pokemon.
That would be cool.
Or a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a chainsaw. That works too.
I love, though, that they said that any Pokemon that's large enough, you will automatically ride. I think that is so cool, because that means, like, when you get Articuno and Moltres and Zapdos, that, like, when you have them follow behind you, instead you're going to be on their back, like, flying through the city. How cool would it be to go back to Vermilion after just catching Zapdos and just, like, flying through the sky on its back? That's going to be so neat.
I want to ride on Mewtwo. Like, he's pretty big.
Yeah, he's pretty big.
Yeah, he's up there. Considering we don't see you riding Gengar or Nidoqueen or Nidoking, don't know if that's going to happen, although if we ever get a Let's Go version of Gen 3, get to ride a Wailord.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Before we end this off, I do want to mention something. I believe it was you on Twitter, Roger, who said this, and I thought that was a really good point. That people were upset some people were upset that we're going back to Kanto again. That Kanto's getting a remake rather than Gen 4. Which, to be fair, it sucks that you want to see your favorite game get remade and see new things be done for it. Obviously, you want that to happen. But if this was happening to the Gen 4 remake, if these changes were being implemented into that game, those fans would be livid.
Exactly. I know. I maybe shouldn't have called all the people who said that's stupid in my live reaction, but I felt it at the time. That was my genuine reaction, because to me, anyone complaining about this not being Diamond and Pearl, and them, like you just said, making all those changes to those games, people would be furious. And I think doing this with Yellow, which is a game that they've already remade, with Fire Red and Leaf Green, they already remade Kanto before, remaking it, giving it a different spin, making it different is great. Because it's not like we're never going to get Diamond and Pearl remakes. That's going to happen at some point. In fact, it'll probably happen on the Switch. We're going to get Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee. Next year, we're getting the next core game. And what do you think is going to happen? Well, the engine that Gen 8 is going to run on is probably going to be the engine that we're going to use for Diamond and Pearl's remake. Mm-hmm. So that stuff is going to happen. So complaining about it now just seems like pointless to me. To me, remaking Diamond and Pearl right now with just all the same stuff that they added in with Sun and Moon, but doing all the weird dimension twisting stuff, I wouldn't want that. I'd be way less interested in that right now than I am in this. Because this is doing something completely different, and again, we're eventually going to get those games, and I'll love them. I love Gen 4. Gen 4 is literally my favorite generation of Pokemon, tied with Generation 5. I love Gen 4, I love the remakes that happened in Gen 4, I like just the story of Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, but I still feel pretty confident that we will get that in the engine that Gen 8 is going to be made in. I think Gen 8's engine will probably be very similar to this. I'm not expecting a huge change, but I think in terms of the core mechanics of the game, it being a much more hardcore game, that's what I think we should expect for an eventual Platinum or Diamond and Pearl remake.
I think some people are worried that Let's Go is the new remake series. So next we have Johto, then we have Gen 3 and Gen 4 and so on. So I see where they're coming from, because that could potentially happen. But yeah, I agree with you. If Gen 4 were remade in this Let's Go style, people would absolutely freak.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very likely, and I like the idea of it makes sense to go from Gen 8 to Gen 4 to maybe another Let's Go and then back to Gen 8 and go on from there. Just extend that cycle and have a new set of series to go through and cater to each kind of fan and get people invested and whatnot. It does make a lot of sense, and honestly, I'm very happy that Gen 8 has this much time for development, because it's only going to look better. It's only going to be better as they nail these ideas and get what they want out there. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm totally ready for them to surprise me with something completely different with Gen 8. And already they've already said one of the big differences is that they're looking at Let's Go as more of a console experience, while Gen 8 is going to be more of a handheld experience, which makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think, too, a lot of people complaining about, oh, we're not getting the core game right now this year, Those are the same kind of people who complain about the clones in Smash Brothers, right? It's like Sakurai didn't have extra development time to make another character. He's giving you the clones because it's easy to do. He's giving you an extra character. That's what Pokemon Company is doing. They're giving us an extra Pokemon game. Like, we're still getting the mainline Pokemon game. This is just an extra little fun thing. So to complain about something extra is just ludicrous to me. Let the people enjoy this who are going to enjoy this. Let the new fans who never experienced Kanto before and the casual people who maybe have been away from the franchise because it's been too daunting, let them enjoy this. There's no reason to, hate on this if you know you're still going to get your other game, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think not every game has to be made for every single person to enjoy. It's okay to have different audiences and cater to different audiences. And next year's game has been announced. It's going to happen. So if people want that game, they can just wait for it.
Exactly.
And hey, maybe this will work as a good way for young kids to get into it. Like, I have a nephew, and he loves Pikachu. He loves watching the Pokemon series. He hasn't played a game at all. So as he gets older, this might be a good choice for him. So
yeah, I mean, this is completely anecdotal, but my girlfriend has never beaten a Pokemon game other than the original Pokemon games. Tried Sun and Moon, got halfway through and was like, "Ooh, this isn't what I wanted." Saw the trailer for this, played a little bit of Pokemon Go, and was like, "I really want to play this game." And she's totally on board. She's already planning on pre-ordering Let's Go Eevee, and I'm going to do Pikachu. And we'll probably end up playing through together. So, yeah, I think they're going to be reaching a new demographic with this, while also still reaching out to those people who maybe played Pokemon when they were younger, lapsed on the Nintendo home consoles, see that there's a Pokemon game, and then now they're going to pick this up for the holidays. And to launch this with, the same year with a Smash Brothers and a Fire Emblem, I just think Nintendo's gonna do gangbusters this holiday.
Very likely. Because at the very least, it's still Pokemon on a console.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, any final thoughts about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee?
Well, are you guys Team Eevee or Team Pikachu?
I'm Team Pikachu.
I'm Team Eevee.
I'm Team Eevee too.
Oh, wow. I'm the only Pikachu. That's all right. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll dress up my little Pikachu happily. You guys can have your little Eevee.
I can have an Officer Jenny Eevee. Come on.
You can have your little Eevee that can't evolve. That's fine. You get your little Eevee that can't evolve. I'm going to have my light ball Pikachu dressed up in a little sailor outfit, and I'm going to be loving it.
Now, they said that there's Eevee and Pikachu that you can catch in the game, so I just got to catch a bunch of those, and time to break out the stones. And
oh, did they say that?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, wow.
So
okay,
there are Pikachu and Eevee to catch in the game, so you can, of course, get Raichu and all the others.
I bet you, though, in Let's Go Eevee, there's probably only going to be Wild Pikachu, and then vice versa. In Let's Go Pikachu, there's probably only going to be Wild Eevee. So I'll be able to have my Eevee that can evolve into a bunch of different Pokemon, but you'll only have your Pikachu that can evolve into Raichu.
So what I'm thinking is your starter Eevee will ride on your head, and then any Wild Eevee will probably just tail behind you. Do you reckon that's the only real difference?
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah. I'm also guessing that maybe what they'll do is, in Celadon City, when you go up to the, I forgot what the building is, and there's a little Pokeball with an Eevee in it?
Yeah.
I think maybe in Let's Go Pikachu, there's an Eevee inside that Pokeball, but in Let's Go Eevee, there's a Pikachu inside of it.
Maybe.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I know in Yellow, you could catch more wild Pikachu. They were pretty rare, but you still could catch more.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what they do. Alright, well, I think that covers it for our Pokemon Let's Go discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Roger, where can we find you at?
You can find me at RogerSpace on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on Instagram. And make sure to subscribe because E3 is coming up and there are going to be some crazy reactions to those trailers that I'm going to be uploading, I am sure. And if you haven't already watched it, go watch my live reaction to the Pokemon Let's Go trailer because I was absolutely freaking out over a bunch of stuff.
I believe it. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming as well, including our recent Pokemon Let's Go analysis. So definitely check that out. But until next time, guys, bye.